Our next witness is witness number 175, which can be found on page 41 in your books. Forty-one.
41. Page 41. Witness 175. It says on the statement that this witness said he would testify openly but would keep it reserved until the hearing at the tribunal. Has that been resolved?
I have no information. They're telling me 1 second. Hello, Mr. Witness, can you hear me?
Yes, also greetings from me.
Mr. Chair.
Good afternoon, Mr. Witness. Thank you for coming to testify. Would you repeat after me, please, the following? I solemnly declare that I will speak the truth.
I solemnly declare to tell the truth
And nothing but the truth.
the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Thank you. There'll be questions from counsel, followed by questions from the panel.
Mr. Witness, if you could tell us in your own words what happened to you on November 16th, keeping in mind any security concerns you may have. Do not disclose anything you do not want to. But if you can explain to us how it is that you joined the protest and what happened to you after that for the panel.
Yes. My name is Omidi. I come from the city of Kermanshah, and on the 25th of Aban, 1398, I wanted to go to work. Of course, from the day before, I knew that the price of petrol had risen, and I wanted to go to work near Sinu crossroads. I saw a number of young people. They had put tires to fire, and they were giving slogans against the government. And after that, minute to minute, I saw that the demonstrators or the protesters were increasing, and it took only a few minutes after setting fire to tires. And when I joined them, the police force came. They had been dispatched from the headquarters in Kermanshah, and the headquarters of the police force perhaps is 100, 200 meters away from that location. They came, they struggled with the crowd, they started beating them up with the batons, with the truncheons, and the crowd were picking up the stones, cobblestones on the sidewalks, and they threw the stones towards the police force, the officers. Because their number was not very high, they retreated and they went back to their headquarters in Kermanshah. And after that, I saw that minute to minute, the crowd was increasing, and other people were joining the crowd. I saw that firefighters came. I saw the vehicle for the firefighters, and they were throwing water at people, and they were trying to put out the fire that had been caused by setting fire to the tires. And the people attacked the vehicle of the firefighters. They broke the windows of the vehicle, and the driver of the firefighters' vehicle was dragged out, but they did not harm him. no harm to the person, and they just let him go. And after that, the crowd started to throw stones and wood pieces, etc., to the vehicle. And in the melee, I saw a number of people, and I did have my experience from the years before in the protests. I had seen it in 1388 protests. I saw these were the same people. Their faces were similar, the clothing was similar, and I knew that these are the plainclothes security forces. And personally, I suggested, and a few others suggested, that they said they said to us, let's go and set fire to the vehicle of the firefighters. I did not accept it, but those other people went and got petrol from these same plainclothes people and set fire to the vehicle of the firefighters. And the damages also were restricted to breaking the windows of the banks. And afterwards, from the Azadi Square in Kermanshah, and which is the main square in the city, we saw that a number of forces were coming towards us. They had military uniform, and it was from the special units, and they were throwing tear gas at the crowd so that the protests would disperse. But people were advancing towards them rather than retreating. And finally, the crowd reached where they wanted to reach, that's to say the main square of the city. They reached that spot. And from the other directions, you would see from other streets, for example, the Taghabustan Boulevard, or other streets like Modarres Street, we could see that crowds were emerging. And the crowd was swelling, and we saw that forces from a special unit were there, and all around there were a lot of people. It was a big crowd giving slogans, but they were not trying to injure or do any harm to the police force. And then it went on around 12 noon or 1 o'clock in the afternoon. We saw that the plainclothes forces who were ready, they attacked the crowd from behind them. All these people who were also the militia, the IRGC, all these I saw myself with my own eyes, were there attacking people. And what I am telling you, these are affiliated with the municipality, but they belong to the paramilitary or the militia force, the Basij. They were attacking people from behind the people. And when they were injuring them and inflicting battery on them with their hunting weapons. A number of people were injured, they were wounded, and as much as they could, they dispersed the crowd. And the special Iran units, they started also beating up the crowd, to throw tear gas, to use water cannons, and these are the things that they did to people. At that time, the employees of the utility companies in the province, they had batons in hand made of rubber, and those who were from the security forces like the militia, the Basij in plain clothes, or the popular forces or the others. You have a lot of them. You have a lot of riffraffs that they have in all neighborhoods and all cities. They were also there, and they targeting people with their pellet bullets, and as long as I was there, I was also targeted, and I received one in my temple. A few of them I had received in my legs, but I was wearing thick pants, so the pellet bullets could not penetrate my skin, and I had only bruises. But the one that I had there in my temple, it had cracked the skin, and it had penetrated my skin, but I was able to take it out myself. And there were other people who had inflicted more serious injuries, some in their eyes, some in their other parts of their body. 4, 5, 6, 7 places in their bodies had been injured because these pellets, when they hit you, they are very hot. So they had to take off their clothes because of the heat generated, and you could see the spots, and you could see that they had been targeted and they had been shot by these hunting rifles. And after this, the crowd was dispersed to a certain extent, and then they started again giving slogans, and the demonstrations were going on. I'm just telling the witness that his voice is not good anymore. We can hear his voice, but it's not very good. We cannot hear it very well. No, the voice is not audible actually.
Try speaking again, Mr. Witness. Maybe a bit closer to the microphone. Try again, please. Could you try and repeat your last answer, Mr. Witness? I think we're losing your voice, the reception. Now you.
الو صدای منو دارین؟
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
We can hear you.
Mr. Witness,
صدای من هست؟
go ahead.
Can you hear me now?
Please repeat your last answer.
من صدای شما رو ندارم. متأسفم.
I cannot hear you. My phone rang a few times, and as a result, I've lost your voice, your sound.
خیلی ضعیفه. قطع کنین دوباره زنگ بزنین. ببخشید.
I can hear your voice very low, so please hang up and ring again. In Iran and elsewhere, they intentionally are calling me so that I would not be able to testify. Please hang up if you can hear me and call me again. And if necessary, I can give you another telephone number to call.
Mr. Witness?
شنیده میرم صدای شما رو ندارم اگه صدای منو دارین
I cannot hear you. If you have my voice, please respond.
We have your voice. Do you have ours?
آره صدا اومد صدا
Yes, now I can hear you.
And try to repeat your last answer, please.
بله
Of course. Unfortunately, since many people have my number in Iran intentionally, they call me from unknown numbers so that they would be able to disrupt our communication.
Witness, due to some time constraints, can you move forward in your timeline ahead to when you were arrested and what happened when you were put in the prison?
بله
So you want me to continue from where it was disrupted?
When you were arrested, can you start from there?
از جایی که بازداشت شدم
Okay, from the point that I was arrested, I understand. On the 9th of the 28th of Aban, 19th of November, that is to say 20th of November maybe, I was in one of my friend's house that I was arrested. I hadn't explained about being injured. This was the first time that I was hit by a pellet. My right arm was hit by a sniper. They were trying to hit my heart. But since I was moving, they were able to hit my right arm only. I did not explain about all this. Have you been aware of all this?
You mentioned that you were hit by a bullet, and then after that, if you could start with.
من دو بار تیر خوردم
I was shot twice. Once I was shot by pellet, and the second time I was hit by a G3 or by a sniper. That's based on what my surgeon has said. I have even sent the pictures to the court, to the tribunal. So I don't know whether you've got my pictures or not, but I was hit twice. I was shot twice.
Those.
بار دوم
The second time, I was in Jafarabad neighborhood, close to Besat police station, when someone, Nader Bijnavand, who was hit by a sniper in the eye, and along with 30 to 40 other injured individuals. And I was in the best condition as compared to them. Many of them had been hit even by 3 or 4 military bullets during the protests from the Jafarabad police station, either by the police officers they were shot or they were shot by the plainclothes officers. After that, after my injury and after witnessing a number of people being killed in Jafarabad, on 28th of Aban, that is 19th of November, which was going towards the night. And then on 20th of November, I was arrested by the security officers of Kermanshah. More than 20 to 30 armed individuals were over my head when I became conscious. And they blindfolded me, put me in a car, and took me away. And I got to a place where I wish I never reached. I was wishing for my death day and night.
Next, if you feel comfortable.
بله
Yes. After I got to that place, I knew to a certain extent that it is either the intelligence detention center or the IRGC detention center. After a few days, new individuals came. On the first day, I was kept in a hall in which there were many people. Some of them were injured, some of them were individuals who had been identified before. Then they were taken to the solitary confinement. After a few days, when I was kept in that, after a few days that they were kept in the solitary confinement, they started interrogating the individuals. And it continued until it reached torture and beating up. They had certain demands. They brought certain papers to individuals. I was accused of a lot of things. I did not accept any of the charges or any of the accusations. They brought me papers. They asked me to sign them. They brought cameras. They asked me to talk before the camera, to accept my charges and say that I wanted to cause disruptions and vandalism, anarchy, but I never accepted to talk before the camera. They wanted me to confess to things that were not true. Days passed. I didn't have anything to say or to confess. I had a wounded body. I may rather say that I had lost my soul. I was just a body there. They started torturing me afterwards. They said if I did not confess to what they wanted, then I would be killed under torture. During days and nights, I was tortured to confess to what I had not done. And I did not have any armed revolt, and I was among the thousands of people. I had at most picked up a stone. And they wanted a number of people who had died, who had been killed in our neighborhood, to be shouldered by us. They wanted us to accept the responsibility of killing them, and I did not accept that. After the tortures I received, I was finally taken to an interrogation office. If I'm talking too fast, you may warn me. One day, I was taken to an interrogation room. I was asked whether I knew what the sound was. I said, no, I don't know. They said that this is your wife crying and shouting under torture. If you do not confess to what we want, your wife will be killed under torture. I kept silent without giving an answer or saying anything. I had nothing to say. I said that if I want to accept what they are asking me, and even if this is my wife that they are torturing, well, I would be next, and they will kill me after. So I decided to keep silent. Those tortures took hours. I could hear a woman shouting, and the same process repeated several times. The only thing I did was to keep silent. I didn't say anything.
Go ahead.
In the meantime, I asked to have a lawyer. I said, I want a lawyer to represent me. They said, you don't need a lawyer, either inside the detention center or outside the detention center or in prison. We're going to execute you anyway. Or outside the prison, we will kill you, your wife, and your children in whatever means possible. So it is best for you to just confess to what we want from you. And the only means available to me was to keep silent before the torture and all what was going on.
Finally released from the prison.
I was in solitary confinement for 28 days. Sorry, I apologize. 38 days I was in solitary confinement. I don't want you to confuse things. On the 30th day that I was in the detention center, I was taken to the court of Kermanshah. I asked the judge whether these tortures that I had undergone in the detention centers, were they ordered by the judge? He said, no. These are their own, this is based on their own discretions, the discretions that they have. But my tortures would be much greater. You have been using arms, weapons, and you are considered the enemy of God. I asked Mr. Shahbazi, who was the deputy governor, and I asked him, does he have any film showing that I had been involved in any armed conflict so that I would confess? He said, no. You and your family are all anti-revolutionary, anti-revolution. And you and your family are all against the government, and you should all be destroyed, you and your family. Afterwards, when I heard the judge that he said that his tortures are even worse and they are to come, well, I had nothing to say. And the Kermanshah prosecutor said that if that's the case, go and write your last will and testament, and we will send you to the prison, and then we'll decide when to execute you. You have 1 more week to think, and then we'll send you to the detention center of the intelligence ministry. If you didn't have anything to say, then you'll be executed after you are returned to me. You will not see the color of life after your return back to me. I went back again to the detention center of the intelligence ministry in Kermanshah. I was tortured again for 1 week by the interrogators and the torturers of the Islamic Republic. I had nothing to lose because I had already gone through all that process. My only means of resistance was to keep silent. And I didn't even talk about the stones if I had thrown any. And when I went back, it was Shahbazi. He was not even a judge. He claimed to be a judge. He was the deputy governor of Kermanshah. He said, now that that's the case, we'll believe you. But there are certain things that you might say so that we would reduce your punishment. Well, I said I had done nothing illegal. And if I had objected and protested, if I had demonstrated, these were not crimes. And if anyone confesses, is because of a crime they have committed. You are the ones who are shooting people. You are the one who are killing people. So you are the ones who are destroying people after they protest. So in Kermanshah, every day is the Aban 98. Every day for our poor citizens is Aban 98. We all see Aban 98 every day. It's not just during the protests that took place for the increase in the price of petrol. That was just an excuse, a pretext. The main reason for the objection of the people was to overthrow the horrific regime of the Islamic Republic.
Hand you over to the panel for questioning.
Ben.
I think no questions from the panel. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Witness.
Mr. Witness, thank you very much for giving evidence before the tribunal. We will take into account everything
اگه
you said.
یک دقیقه به من فرصت بدید
If you would allow me to speak for 1 extra minute, I want to say something outside the topic of the tribunal. This is for humanity. I want to tell the world what this regime, this government is, and what it wants to do to the world in future. I have written it on paper. Since I am not very literate, I had to memorize what I had written. If you would allow me, I can read it for 1 minute so that the world would know what regime it is that we have and what it wants to do to the world.
Mr. Witness, can you just submit the statement to the council's team and we'll pass it on to the panel?
Actually, just the panel would like to hear it, please,
Okay, even if it's not relevant to these.
even if it's not relevant.
یک دقیقه
Let's decide whether it's relevant when we hear it. Mr. Witness,
آره،
go ahead.
یک دقیقه من از روحم نوشتم
I have written it. I'll just read it for 1 minute so that you would know the nature of the Islamic Republic of Iran and the world would know about the nature of the Islamic Republic of Iran.
Mr. Witness, go ahead and read it, please.
This is a fact. One day a friend jokingly asked me, if you were powerful, what would you have done to the Islamic Republic of Iran? I immediately said that I find no way but to overthrow this regime, a regime that is trying to destroy the present and future of the world by spreading violence and has, in fact, affected the whole region as well. If the life of this regime is going to continue and the nightmare that it's going to create by producing atomic weapons, it will have no doubt in destroying humanity. And this is a regime that does not even have any mercy for the youngsters of its own people, for the young of its own nation. So it has no fear of destroying the whole world and humanity. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Witness. We appreciate your...
جمهوری اسلامی به سرزمین‌های سبز
The Islamic Republic needs the green lands of Europe in future, and the European nations should know this.
Thank you very much for your testimony. I understand that's all we have time for today.